Hey guys, my name is Marcus Ray, and welcome to the very first Method to the Madness video. Today, we're going to be talking about a very polarizing question, and that's whether or not music producers need music theory. Let's talk about it. So, let me start by saying this. There are no actual rules when it comes to music. Like, think about it. I can make a sound right now by clapping my hands together, and I could call that a song, and that's my song. Music, at its very essence, is basically just organized sound, and you can argue about the organized part of it. So, really, anything that we call music, it is music, and it doesn't have to follow any set of rules, right? So, why is it that we harp on learning music theory so much? Well, let's talk about what it is. Music theory covers a very broad range of topics. So, I think when we refer to music theory for producers, we're mainly talking about the tonal system and how to use melody and chords to create what you hear, right? So that's what we're talking about in the context of this. So let's talk about why that's useful. So I've taught piano for the past 5 years or so, and one thing I've come across with all my students is that they have a really good ear, and they just need to learn what things are called, or the opposite is true. They've been a classical musician all their life and they know what everything is called, but they don't know how to use it, right? So, music theory is basically really good for if you have a good ear, but you don't know what things are called or necessarily how to use them, right? Which for most music producers, we tend to fall into that category of we know what sounds good, but we don't know what it's called or why it sounds good. I compare it to grammar. So you can speak English perfectly well without necessarily learning all the perfect grammatical rules and everything. But if your goal is to speak better, if your goal is to speak more clearly, is to come up with sentences easier, if you want to have a profession in speaking, then it would make sense to learn the system that the words you're going to be using is going to fall into, and that's grammar. The same thing applies to music. I feel if you want to produce as a hobby, you're fine. You don't need to necessarily go through the rabbit hole of learning everything there is to know about music theory. But if pursuing music production as a career is something that you want to do, then it makes sense to at least investigate, the system that these sounds that you're using falls into, right? And so now, that leads to the question: why is learning music theory so frowned upon in the first place? I think there is a misguided belief that if you somehow do go down the road and learn this music theory, that you aren't going to be able to, make the same music that you made before you learned music theory. So again, going back to the grammar analogy, just because you learn grammar doesn't mean that you can't still speak a little slang. You can still speak a little slang. As a matter of fact, you can understand better why that slang was formed in the first place, because you know the rules of language and you know what rules that slang is breaking. The same thing applies with music. So that's one end, and on the other end, I think that producers can have a little bit of elitism as far as learning music theory, let's say someone makes a hit song with Drake and they don't know music theory. They use samples or they use I don't know, MIDI pack or something. Um, does that make them less of a music producer? And to that, I think the answer is no. Because again, you have to look at where you have to look at what music is. Music is basically whatever you want to call it. If I want to call those birds out there chirping music, I could. John Cage wrote a piece called 433, and you could look it up right now. It's 4 minutes and 33 seconds of the performer sitting in silence. And the music is the sound that, the audience member does when they cough. Or it's, you know, someone's cell phone going off. That's the music. Right? So there are no rules to this music, and pieces like that prove it. So, in short, do you need to learn music theory? I would say if you're pursuing it professionally, then definitely. But if not, then that is up to you. It depends on how much you're willing to invest and how much you're willing to put into it. Because being a music producer is unique. Being a music producer is a very fine balance between the art side of it and the science side of it, right? Because if you go too much into the science side of it, you're an audio engineer. If you go too much into the art side of it, then you're a musician, right? So a music producer is kind of like um, the balance between the two, and I'm including beat makers. It's for right now, they're the same thing. So I would say it's a matter of knowing your strengths and weaknesses. So if you're more of an audio engineering type of person, then I would say learn music theory to kind of help you balance that out. Or again, if you know what sounds good but you don't know why, learn music theory to balance that out. Now, again, if you're a musician and you've studied music theory all your life, you know, continuing down that path isn't going to necessarily bring you anything different. So, for you, I would say try to balance that out more with the science side and maybe invest some time in learning mixing, learning mastering. That this was the side that I was on. I've been playing music my whole life, but when I decided to become a music producer, I had no idea how to make beats. I had to put in the time. I had to learn everything about my DAW. I had to learn everything about mixing and mastering. And so it's really a matter of time, and it's a matter of investing your time and choosing whether it's worth it for you. So there you have it. Hope you found this information helpful. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments. Peace.